the Epson F2100 printer at the ready, the fancier Studio 16 by 24 clamshell, my blank garment ready to be printed on, me prepping the shirt with the pre-treat, which I used the Epson standard pre-treat that came with the printer for free. I'm rolling on the pre-treat in this moment where I'm actually talking, but I do have some music playing in the background that will not get clearance. The spray bottle that I use is like a air pressure bottle, and it kind of keeps the spray from going into the printer. That's what I'm explaining right now. So after I've rolled it on, it's just a plain shirt with like a liquid on it that helps the ink adhere to it. I'm gonna load the shirt up, and I'm bringing you all over to the heat press, because before you can print with the pre-treat being liquid, you actually need to cure the pre-treat so it becomes like one with the shirt and adheres. Sorry about the camera. Got a ring cam and I snapped the piece off, so I'm still learning how to work with it because I've been hesitant to record for so long. I have so many videos I've recorded but never actually uploaded. This one is actually done today. I was trying an Airbrush Technique in Photoshop since Airbrush is making a comeback. Yes, us 80s and 70s kids are back with the airbrush and bringing it to you all new kids. The paper that I'm holding is actually a silicone pre-treat cover, and I'm going to hover my heat press about 30 seconds just to get the pre-treat starting to dry. Usually what you'll see is a little bit of steam rising up off the heat press in that moment, because it's like actually considered like condensation or moisture in a shirt. I know a lot of you all probably pre-pressed the shirt and seen it happen if the shirt set out in the atmosphere. Well, with the pre-treat, because it's moisture, it'll do the same effect. I'm going to take the silicone sheet and cover it, and therefore that will, you know, keep the actual heat Platen off of it. Now I'm talking about the printer next to it, which is the Epson XP 1500, which tape cartridges. I usually do printing cuts, notebooks, and things like that from there. I love it because it has the gray and red inks in there. That is the Epson F500, F570 24-inch sublimation printer, which I got around June. I do quite a bit of nesting, and the printer over there, that is the WF7720. I got it almost 2 years ago. I got it a year after getting the WF7710 because the rollers popped in the 7710 and wouldn't pull paper through anymore. So the 7720 I actually was using up until June for almost 2 years, and with that, it actually prints 13 by 19, which the F570 does not. So I still back into the 7720 a lot of the times when I'm doing smaller prints or just need to print a single print instead of wasting roll paper or changing to the sheet fed on the F570. Now I'm going to go ahead and cure the actual pre-treat on the shirt. I did move it back some, so it was 3 inches down to where the pre-treat starts at, and there's still like a little wet spot at the bottom of the shirt. So you're going to actually see me open the press and move the shirt up some more so I can actually cure that part. Now the cure itself is being done at 338 degrees, and for that this one is about 45 to 90 seconds depending on how much pre-treat you use and how your mix was on the pre-treat. I use more water, distilled water I should say, in my pre-treat than I use pre-treat. And the reason being is you don't want crystals or things like that forming on a shirt. It helps with the staining, because I have heard a lot of people speak of staining on white when they pre-treat, or even crystals forming on the darker colors. So now I'm going to open it and shift the shirt back as I mentioned. That way it can dry all the way to where the print will possibly reach. You do kind of pre-treat a little bit larger than the area you're going to print on. That way you don't run into an issue where the colors start fading out or washing out when your customers get it. The shirt that I have on, that's actually a DTF print that I done when I originally first got the printer. It's also done on the F2100. I used Eco-Frame films and Eco-Frame powder to do that one. I've been washing it and wearing it because I'm really a stickler about offering my customers something that hasn't been tested. So I have to know the quality of anything I put my name on before I send it out. So I do wear a lot of my own custom shirts. This one has been washed and worn quite a few times. And as far as the quality, I used a lot of white ink in this one. The key with the DTF prints, a lot of white ink will leave a heavier feel on the shirt. So that was kind of a lesson learned. The colors are vibrant, pretty, but I could have toned down the white some to make it softer on the hand, and I could have knocked out some of the pink in the design to also make it softer on the hand. Now, what we're watching is I rotated the shirt so it could dry the bottom half of it, and I'm gonna pull it out in just a moment. Sorry about the light kind of shining in there. I keep the lights on because my studio is in a finished basement, so the overhead lighting is not that pretty. As you can see, the parchment sheet lifted up quite a bit off of there, which means that it was dry enough not to stick to the shirt. If it sticks to the shirt, then you kind of know, hey, I need to go back in and let this cure a little bit more. There's nothing on the shirt still. I didn't get any staining. So now I'm going to take you all back over to me loading the shirt up on the F2100. The top piece there is called the Platen. It comes with a 14x16 Platen, and right now I have the Platen set to the highest point since I did last do a DTF print on there. So I'm loading the shirt up, and it has arrows on the machine that really help. Sometimes what I do with the shirts is fold them in half and press the collars, and that way I have my center line. But as you do it more and more, you kind of get used to centering the shirt on the press. So right here you see me loading the shirt up, and I'm going to point out where the two arrows is. There's an arrow at the back of the machine near the printer display, and there's an arrow down in front of the Platen that looks like dots that you can actually use as your guide. It's like a line sight that you can use to point straight to the back. I straightened the shirt up a bit there. You'll see me straightening it again. But now I'm going to grab my little trusty ruler because I have trust issues. And seriously, no matter how you eye it or see it, you're still likely going to question just how even it is. So I grab my little ruler. I'm going to come 3 inches off the collar, and what I do is, because there's a metal plate that actually holds that shirt down, I pull it just before I get to 3 inches, because the metal plate is like 1/4 of an inch wide, so it gives you the rest of the distance. The print will start right below where the plate hits. So I'm going to grab that now that I'm done with my trust issues, and I'm going to straighten my shirt out a little bit there because I can kind of see that it was a little bit uneven, and I kind of use the edges of the Platen the same way I do with the heat press to find the center line, and make sure I have the same amount of fabric on both sides, kind of like a little trick to that. So I'm grabbing the metal plate, and I'm going to place that on, and just place it down gently. That way your shirt doesn't shift around in there. I'm going to send the shirt through just as a test run without actually printing. That way that I can see how much I need to lower that platen, because I know it's going to beep because I have it up as high as it can go. That shirt needs to clear the sensors inside of the printer. So there's actually a loud beeping noise that does occur that you're not going to be privy to in the moment, because I'm having to do a voiceover due to the copyrighted music playing in the background. But now we're going to go ahead and what the printer is actually doing right now too. When it's been sitting, it'll run through a short ink circulation cycle, just to circulate the white ink, because if you don't know, with the DTG printer, the white ink is it settles. So actually when I start up the printer daily, I have to shake that white ink, and it comes with 2 cartridges of white ink, so I have to shake that to redistribute it in there and get the ink flowing again. And so what the machine is actually doing now is testing the height, and it did beep. So I'm actually going to come back and pull it back out and then change the platen height. So this is me removing the printer back out, the shirt back out of the printer. And too bad at that camera angle you can't actually see what the screen says, but it does say platen height error, which lets me know that the shirt is up too high and I need to bring it down. So I'm going to pull it back out, and from there you'll see me flip the shirt up. And what I'm doing in the process of flipping the shirt up is actually just going to lower. I'm going to release it because there's a lock that holds it in place. I'm going to release it and then drop it down some. I brought it down to a 2 on the platen height and locked it back. So now I can send it back through and see if it beeps again. So for me, it didn't beep again. Now I'm going to go ahead and send the print on through. So you actually see me going into my office because I have a separate iMac that I actually work from now. The one that's over to the side, I use that one with my cutter. You've probably seen it a bit earlier in the stills or in the video. But so I have to walk a little bit. Now I'm going to come back through and send it on in. And we can see what happens here. It's actually pretty magical, especially when you're used to working with like other heat transfer products like HTV, sublimation, print and cuts, or even eco-solvent prints. Even with the DTF, since it's going on the film, then the shirt. So this kind of gets you prepped and ready. You send the shirt through and it's direct ink hitting the shirt, which is pretty awesome in itself. Sorry y'all seeing my hands tap and adjust the camera because it was kind of like out of focus for a little minute. And now I'm going to send it on through for the print. The print process is actually pretty quick if you care to time it. Since there's no white ink going down with this, it actually prints way faster than a 2-pass setup. So it's just going straight to color. You don't really want the white ink on a white shirt because it will make it heavier. So as you can see, I'm talking in the video. I really wish you all could have heard me because I had a whole speeches prep for you all, but needless to say, I wasn't smart enough to turn the music off. I'll admit it. I'm kind of like an audiophile, so I love my music, and the shirt is done that fast. Now the ink is still wet on here, so I'm going to remove the bracket off and set it to the side and lift the shirt up carefully because you can actually rub ink off onto the rest of the shirt. So I'm going to bring it over to the heat press. I'm going to set that down on the heat press, and then I'm going to come back and get you all and turn this around so you all can see this is the process of actually curing ink. So you do have two cure processes with this. You have the cure for the pre-treat, and then you have the cure process for the actual ink itself. The ink goes a little bit shorter time on the cure. So now that I have it mounted on the heat press, I'm actually going to take a cover sheet from below. That's where I keep all my little cover sheets at, on top of the shirt container. But I'm actually going to cover it with a little cover sheet after I let it just sit up there for a little bit. And that's kind of just so the ink gets a little chance to dry just a little bit. And then the cover sheet, as you can see, those are reusable. So, you know, you're not having to buy a whole bunch of them. You know, I got a couple of them from Lawson Printing Company, well, Printing Supply, which is local to me. Picked up a couple from them to use. So now I'm going to cover it, and we're going to go about 45 seconds. I don't keep a timer set for DTG specifically because I get tired of adjusting the time. So I kind of just set it to 120 seconds and then open it before, you know, whenever my time is up. So we're going to go 45 seconds with this. And one of the cool things about it, where you don't have to touch that print, when you go to open that heat press, if that ink is cured, it will actually lift the parchment sheet up itself. So you'll kind of see it float. Even though I open it slowly, you'll see it float up because it's not stuck to the shirt. If it sticks to the shirt, you want to close it and continue to press it. So you'll see now, open it, you see the sheet float. I know it's done. There's no ink on there. It's completely dry. So I can reuse that sheet again. And now for my shirt with the airbrush attempt. The words and the airbrush attempt I did in Photoshop. With the image that actually is an image by designs by Aymara, Aymara. So I did get that from Designs by Aymara. She has a cool little bundle on there with the images, and the colors are pretty. They came out, you know, you can see the skin tone, you can see the airbrush effect. At the end, you'll be able to see the shirt a lot closer. And that is a Gildan 100% cotton. It's not the ring spun cotton, which you actually do get a little bit better. Some say a lot, but so far my experience has been it's not that much difference. Now here's the final shirt.